Hello again, this is Mr. Case. Today we're going to finish up 12.3. This is 12.3b, actually. We've looked at the origins of the Yuan dynasty, Y-U-A-N, headed up by Kublai Khan. The Yuan dynasty is not Chinese, it is Mongol, but it's Mongol rule in China. We saw that good old Kublai had launched two attacks on Japan, and they were both repelled. Including a typhoon that sweeps the Mongol warriors, who are more adept on horses than they are in boats, into the sea. But the rule of China, Kublai is going to use Chinese institutions, he included Chinese institutions, and non-Mongols to help him rule successfully. The highest positions weren't given to Mongols because the Chinese system was a little bit too complex for them. And so the Chinese themselves helped Kublai to rule. All right, most of the high government posts went to Mongols, and went to non-Mongols, Chinese, and foreigners. The idea is that they could be trusted with no local loyalties. Kublai is going to restore the Grand Canal. It had been built by the Sui dynasty, but after a couple hundred years it had fallen into disarray and it needed to be repaired. And so Kublai was able to do that. And alongside this Grand Canal, alongside the canal, ran a road or a highway for 1,100 miles to ensure that there was a steady grain supply that went north and south. So a lot of public works, a lot of infrastructure by Kublai. Foreign trade was encouraged with post roads, foreign sellers being able to come in, and they continued to use the Silk Road. Now, you're going to see a very famous visitor to the court of the great Khan. It was Marco Polo, who was from Italy. In 1275, he visited the great Khan. He was a 17-year-old trader who had traveled with his dad and his uncle as far east as China. They called that Cathay, C-A-T-H-A-Y. And as they visit, being traders, Marco was able to pick up many languages. He spoke many languages fluently, and that impressed Kublai to the point where he gave Marco diplomatic missions throughout China. So Kublai is going to send him out as a government official, and he worked for Kublai for about 27 years before he finally went home. And as Marco goes home, he made it home at the worst possible time. There was a fight, Italian cities versus Italian cities, Genoa versus Venice. And as he lands at his home port, he's almost immediately captured, put into prison for 2 years, and while he's sitting in prison, he entertains his fellow prisoners with stories of trade and travel, and some of the things were too fantastic for the Italians even to believe. One example would be the Chinese have black rocks that they set on fire and they stay lit. Well, what he's talking about is coal. Obviously, back then in Western Europe, they did not burn coal. They burned wood, and the closest thing to coal was peat moss or peat. So Marco was able to establish a link with the Far East, even though trade was still not that well known. You still had the Silk Roads, and then you're starting to see water routes too. The end of Mongol rule. Why did that happen? Mongol rule ends with a failure to conquer Southeast Asia. Now, Southeast Asia would be present-day Vietnam, Cambodia, Laos, Thailand. It's rainforest down there, and it's not easy to conquer. Mongol rule is going to fail because overtaxing of citizens is resented. There's only so many high taxes you pay, and then finally you get sick and tired of it, and you're going to overthrow the government. Kublai dies about 1294 AD. And the folks that take over for Kublai are not as great as the old man himself. And you see rebellions succeed in toppling the Mongols. So the Mongols are out of China. They're driven out of China. And we see a Chinese dynasty ruling China for a change. It's the Ming dynasty that rules. Throughout Central Asia, you see other khanates or kingdoms disintegrate over time, just like it did in China. All good things come to an end. Even the great empire of the Khan goes down the drain. Well, this is the end of 12.3b. See ya.